wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Rosa Anggita, and today I will explain to you about connectors in English. Okay, so what is the meaning of connector? Connector is a word that connects words, phrases, or sentence. Connector can be used in sentences which have no comma and comma. It can connect two different ideas within sentence. When talking about process connectors, of course there are many types and each of them has a different function to connect sentences. To be able to use this connector, of course you need to know first some types of connectors and also the use of these connectors. In the following, I will try to explain several types of process connectors that you need to know so that you can use them properly. The first connector is the reverse connector, which is used to connect two sentences that may be opposite. So if you make two sentences that are opposite or reverse, then you can use this reverse connector. There are several examples of this reverse English connector process. The first one is although or even though. The second one is however or still or even so or in contrast or nevertheless. And the last example of this reverse connector is but or yet. The second connector, namely reasons and causes. Those connect two sentences as reasons and also causes. So usually the first sentence is a cause sentence and then connected to a reason sentence with a connector in English. Here are some connector words that can connect these reason and cause sentences. The first one is because or as or since or also saying, that which means because. And the second example is because of or owing to or due to or also on account of, which also means because but is placed at the beginning of the sentence. And the last example of this reason and cause connector is in order to or so as to, which mean for and is usually followed by a verb after the connector. Next is connector purpose, which is usually used to connect one sentence of activity and the purpose of the activity. You can use the following words to combine two sentences with this category. Okay, the first example is in order to or so as to, which means that and is followed directly by a sentence, but it usually located at the beginning of the sentence. And the last example of this connector, the connector purpose, is there is also in order that or so that, which can have the word so that too and is usually followed by a sentence. Next, there is also cause and effect connector, which is usually used to connect two cause and effect sentences. Here are some cause and effect connectors that you can use to create cause and effect sentence in a paper. The first example is consequently or as a consequence or as a result or therefore, which means therefore and then followed by a sentence. And the second example is as a consequence of or as a result of, which means consequently and it usually followed by a noun after it. And the last example of connector consequence is so, which means so can also be an English connector, which is usually used without using commas. Next, there is also the addition connector, which is used to combine two sentences to add to each other. The sentence can be more with the second sentence with the addition of this type of addition connector process. Here are some connectors that can be used to connect the two sentences. The first example is moreover or furthermore or in additions or besides or what's more, which means more. Usually used after the first sentence and then give a comma to connect to the next sentence. And the second example is as well as or in addition to or besides mean besides and it usually used at the beginning of a sentence. Usually this connector word will be followed by a noun or verb, for example. The next connector with the exemplification type is used to express the example of the previous sentence. There are several choices of words that can be used. Here are some connectors with the exemplification types that can be used to convey examples. The first example of this type of connector is for example or also for instance, which means like, is usually placed at the beginning of the second sentence. So after the word will be followed by several words of activities and connect the first and second sentence. And the last example of this connector is such as also means like, but usually gives an example of the idea at the beginning of the sentence. This is a type of English connector that will definitely be very widely used. Okay, finally, there's also a similitude connector that shows similarities. So it connects two sentences that are almost the same. So you could say it's like a parable that can explain the idea in the first sentence. Here are some word choices. The first one is likewise, which means like. The second example is similarly, which means it is similar. And the last one is in the same way, which has the same way. Okay, so that's a types of connector. So right now I will explain to you the importance of connector presses. Presses connector are indeed very necessary. You could say it is very important to use them in a written word. If you want to connect one sentence with another, then this connector is the solution. You need to use it properly according to the sentence and context of the sentence needed. The function of the connector itself is to be able to connect one sentence with another. Some are placed at the beginning of the sentence, while some are placed in the middle of sentence as a connector. This is what makes it very important to understand and understand each type of English connector. Okay, that's are some explanation of connectors from me. I really hope you understand this material. See you next time. Bye bye.